Hey everyone, it's Stephen here, pastor of Regeneration Church Monash, and welcome to 3-Minute Song Theology.
There is no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark.
Death Cab for Cutie's I Will Follow You Into the Dark is, in my opinion, the standout love song of the 2000s. At the age of 29, songwriter Ben Gibbard goes through an existential moment where he obsesses about death, the afterlife, and the weight of his relationships. And he writes that death is an ever-present fear, it's an impending reality, and yet we all like to think that even though we lose the ones we love, we will be able to see them again somehow. And it's that common experience that really connects a lot of people to the song. Now, Death Cab paints a picture of an apocalyptic romance. In his book, The Denial of Death, cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker writes that human civilization is ultimately an elaborate symbolic defense mechanism against the knowledge of our mortality. And historically, God had been the transcendent being, transcendent concept that gave us that ultimate meaning and purpose and staved off the fear of death. But in the Enlightenment, God was removed. And so secular Western people are grasping for any number of different things to give them that transcendent meaning and purpose. And one of those things is romance. So an apocalyptic romance is one which takes the place of God to provide that ultimate meaning and purpose, to help someone feel that their life is worthwhile. And this is exactly what Death Cab does. Gibbard writes, "No blinding lights or gates of white, just our hands clasped so tight." He denies heaven and hell, and then heroically declares that if there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, I'll follow you into the dark. Now, as wonderful as the song sounds, there is a problem, isn't there? And the problem is that Gibbard actually does not have the power to follow his lover into the dark, whether he wants to or not. There is a bigger problem with apocalyptic romance. Becker writes that when you confuse love and romance for transcendent meaning, you end up failing miserably at both. And he writes this creates a sense of utter despair that we see in the modern person. He writes, "How can a human being be a god-like everything to another? No human relationship can bear the burden of godhood, and the attempt has to take its toll in some way on both parties. After all, what is it that we want when we elevate the love partner to the position of God? We want redemption, nothing less. We want to be rid of our faults, of our feeling of nothingness. We want to be justified, to know that our creation has not been in vain. Needless to say, human partners can't do this. Redemption can only come from outside the individual." So Gibbard actually tells us about his journey to unbelief. Catholic school, as vicious as Roman rule, I got my knuckles bruised by a lady in black. And listen to what she tells him. "Son, fear is the heart of love." Tragically, Ben's nun completely misunderstands the gospel. 1 John 4:18 writes, There is no fear in love. Instead, perfect love drives out fear, because fear involves punishment. So the one who fears is not complete in love. What Gibbard fails to see is that in Christianity, we have the ultimate apocalyptic romance. The gospel is the ultimate love story. It is the story of a great lover who sees his beloved in danger of death. And so what does he do? He rushes to her, puts himself in harm's way, absorbs death so that she might live. Who is the great lover? It's Jesus. And who is the beloved? It's us. You see, on that cross, Jesus suffers the death that we deserve so that we might receive the life that he deserves. And he does this out of his great love for us. So Jesus is the ultimate lover who redeems us, who justifies us, who gives us this sense of transcendent meaning and purpose, who removes our fear of death, and who can bear the burden of godhood. And so the question for you today is, will you receive his love?